What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we're going to be going over all of the perks that we had access to in Call of Duty Black Ops 4's current build. I'm going to be sharing exactly what each of them do, as well as my thoughts on which ones are the best, and are there any crutch perks in the game so far, or at least any apparent crutch perks. Keep in mind, this is still a pretty early build of the game. I do expect some more perks to be in the full build of the game, but I'm not 100% sure that's going to happen. But let's start it off with the Tier 1 perks. So first up in Tier 1, we have Engineer. And Engineer will show enemy equipment and score streaks through walls, just like we've seen with Engineer in many previous Call of Duty games. And in addition to this, it allows you to lock on faster with the launchers. Next up in Tier 1, we have Flak Jacket, and this is pretty much what you remember from Flak Jacket in the past. You take less explosive damage from enemy explosives, and also you take less damage from fire and radiation. So fire is going to be with either Molotovs, or with the Purifier, you're going to take less fire damage with those. And as for radiation, this has to do with Firebreak's reactor core equipment, and this is where he opens up that reactor core, and anybody within a radius will take damage from the radiation. If you're using Flak Jacket, you will take less damage from this reactor core. Moving on to the next one, this is called Resistance, and this is kind of like Tac Mask from the past, although it has a couple added benefits here. With this one, you're resistant to 9-bangs, concussions, razor wire, as well as counter UAVs. So with the 9-bangs and the concussions, this is basically just Tac Mask from the past in Call of Duty. As for razor wire, I don't know the extent to how much this actually counters that. I don't know if it allows you to just basically walk right through razor wire, or maybe you just take less damage, or you're able to move faster within razor wire. Not 100% sure, that's going to require some testing, but it's pretty interesting to see that it counters that. And also it's pretty nice to see that it counters the counter UAV. Finally in Tier 1 we have Cold-Blooded, and Cold-Blooded just makes you resistant to score streak targeting systems. So if somebody has a gunship up, for instance, you aren't going to be glowing bright white. This also appears to counter AI streaks, but I am not 100% sure on that. I can't confirm that with absolute certainty. Getting into Tier 2, first up we have a very familiar perk, Scavenger. This one just allows you to replenish ammo from fallen players. Keep in mind this doesn't work for equipment, because equipment is now on a cooldown, so this only allows you to replenish ammunition. Next we have Dexterity, and with Dexterity you're able to mantle, climb, slide, and swap weapons faster. You also get increased weapon accuracy when jumping or mantling. So quite a bit going on with this perk. It just allows you to handle everything faster, and I will need to do some testing on that increased accuracy when jumping or mantling. With the mantling, you can't be aiming down sight while you mantle, so I'm sure you just maintain a smaller hipfire spread. And it might be the same story with jumping. It might be only when you're hip firing, or there might actually now be an aiming penalty when jumping, and then this kind of negates that aiming penalty. We're definitely going to have to do some more testing on that one. Next we have Gung-Ho, and with this one you fire your weapon and use equipment while sprinting. You can recover from sprint faster, and you move at full speed when reloading. So this is pretty much just Gung-Ho from the past, although the one point in the description of the perk, recover from sprint faster, it kind of implies that it's kind of like a combination of Fast Hands and Gung-Ho from Black Ops 3, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I was using Gung-Ho on almost all of my classes when I played this game, and sprint out times were basically a non-issue for me, so I'm not 100% sure if Gung-Ho is just going to work if you break your sprint by firing, like in COD World War II, or if it will also work if you break your sprint in any other way. Once we get into the beta, this will be one of the first things I test for you guys. Finally in Tier 2, we have Lightweight, and this is no surprise here, it allows you to move faster, and also you take no damage when falling. For Tier 3, first up we have Reveal, and Reveal is a brand new perk. With this one you get increased Fog of War radius for yourself as well as for your teammates. So if you guys look at the minimap while you're playing, it has changed quite a bit. The majority of the map is going to be blacked out for you, or kind of grayed out. You can't really see too much what's going on, but there is a radius around you as well as your teammates where things are cleared up on that minimap. This perk will increase that radius for you. Next up we have Dead Silence, and this one allows you to move quietly, and it also resists detection from acoustic sensors. Now the acoustic sensor is a piece of gear in this game that works like Sixth Sense from Black Ops 3. You get to actually see the general direction of an enemy that's close to you. Dead Silence will counter this, although I'm not 100% sure what the extent of that counter is. I don't know if it just completely counters it so you'll never appear for them, or if it just reduces the radius so you have to be much closer to them in order for it to work. Next we have another brand new perk. This one is called Team Link, and with this one it allows you to see friendly teammates through walls. At first glance, this doesn't really seem to be a very good perk at all. Like, what utility do you get by seeing teammates through walls? Although if you are able to see their health bars through walls, I guess it could help in a lot of situations. If you have a teammate that's kind of far away, if he's in a gunfight or something, you'll be able to see his health bar start to deplete, and you'll know that an enemy is killing him, which will kind of show you a general indication of where the enemies are going to be. I think this is one where I really just need to get my hands on it and see if it's actually worthwhile running. So finally, the last perk that we had access to in this build of the game is Ghosts. With Ghost, you're undetectable to enemy UAVs while moving, planting, defusing bombs, or controlling score streaks, and you also get a reduced reveal time from enemy sensor darts, as well as vision pulse. So the first part of that is just Ghost from Black Ops 3. It only works while you're moving. If you're camping in a corner, you still will be showing up on the enemy radar. And the second part has to do with countering the specialist called Recon. He has the Vision Pulse, which works for the entire team. It's kind of like Vision Pulse from Black Ops 3, but it works for the entire team. This just makes it so they see you for a shorter duration when they see you through those walls. And same thing goes for the sensor dart. This is Recon's piece of equipment where he can shoot it at a wall and it works as like a mini motion sensor. This will make it so you don't ping for quite as long if you're within that motion sensor radius. So those are all the perks as well as their descriptions from the build of the game that we had access to. Like I said, I do anticipate that we'll be seeing a few more perks added in the future for the full build of the game, but these are the ones we know about so far. As for my current top 3 favorite perks based on my experience with this game, I'm going to go with Gung-Ho just because I feel like it's always beneficial to have that reduced sprint out time if you're a somewhat aggressive player. Dead Silence because footsteps in this game, you can hear them. You can definitely hear footsteps a lot louder than World War II, for instance. They're not extremely loud based on my experience, but you can hear an enemy coming, especially if you're in a quieter area of the map. So Dead Silence is very useful for that. And finally, I'm going to go with Ghost. Even though it only works while you're moving, like in Black Ops 3, I still find it to be very beneficial, especially if you try to flank your enemies or you're a somewhat aggressive player that's on the move a lot. It's just great not showing up on that UAV. As for the big question, are there any apparent crutch perks so far? Based on my experience, not really, although Gung-Ho will have to wait and see once I get some testing on that. Out of all of the perks, Gung-Ho is the only one that I'm a little bit apprehensive about. If the base sprint out times are really, really slow and Gung-Ho has a really extreme effect on it, then yes, I could see Gung-Ho being a crutch perk. But at the same time, I don't really know how much Gung-Ho reduces sprint out time, or if it even reduces your base sprint out time at all, or if it only works when you break your sprint by firing, like in COD World War II. For all of the other perks, I'm not really seeing anything that would be a severe crutch. Although in Search and Destroy, for instance, of course you're going to want to use Dead Silence on every one of your classes for search. But for most game modes, I'm not really seeing it. And the really interesting thing I wanted to point out here is I'm somebody that almost always runs Flak Jacket in previous Call of Duty games because I'm often throwing myself on the objective, I'm being very aggressive, and I'm dealing with a lot of grenades. In this game, grenades don't seem to be much of an issue at all. There were very few times in my play session with this game where I was dying to explosives. The reason behind this is twofold. First up, we have the pick 10 system, so there's actually a trade-off to choosing an explosive, and a lot of players would much rather have either like an extra attachment or an extra perk or something than having a grenade on their class. And second, grenades are now on a cooldown, and you don't spawn with one every single time you die. What this means is you can only throw a grenade a certain number of times in a game. Whereas in something like Black Ops 3, every single time you die, you get another grenade that you can throw at the objective. So you can rush the objective, throw a grenade at it, die, respawn, rush it again, throw a grenade at it again, die, respawn, and just continue that process if you wanted to. You can't do that anymore with this cooldown. And I honestly think this cooldown is also going to make it so people just don't want nades at all. Like, it doesn't seem like a worthwhile trade-off to get those nades. So therefore, Flak Jacket, I feel like, is less necessary than it's ever been in Call of Duty. And we see a similar story with Resistance, which is like Tac Mask from the past. It sounds like it would be a nice perk, especially for that counter UAV resistance and the ability to potentially walk right through that razor wire. But as far as concussion resistance or 9-bang resistance, it doesn't really seem like people were using those all that often. So overall, looking at the perk list so far and having a little bit of experience with the game with these perks, I'm really liking the looks of this perk setup so far. Essentially, all of these perks, with the exception of possibly Gung-Ho, are just that. They're perks. They're not necessary by any means. You probably won't feel like you're really missing out if you're not using a particular perk. They're just used to give you a little boost in some very specific situations, and they're designed to support a particular playstyle. That's it. And I'm really happy to see that, especially with Treyarch games, because they are kind of known for their crutch perks in the past. And with that, I'd like to know in the comment section below, what do you guys think of these perks so far, as well as how the perks are laid out? Also, out of all the ones that we've seen so far, which ones are you leaning to the most? If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.
Yeah.